Locked in. What's going on with crypto and regulation? Hi, everyone, and welcome to Ainslie Insights, brought to you by Ainslie Bullion, Ainslie Crypto, and the Gold and Silver Standard. Today, welcome back Matt, who's been looking at everything crypto. He's always looking at everything crypto, but has had a lot to talk about recently in terms of these new changing regulations and just changing situation generally out of the US. How are you going today, Matt?
I'm great, Tipper. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming on. We really needed you here at the moment, actually, to talk us through some of this because there's been so much that's been happening. Whether we
Uh,
look at changes just in the regulation generally, but yeah, we've had that crypto summit, we've had Bitcoin reserves being mentioned. Start us off just with a big picture. What's going on?
okay. Well, as we have started to, as the Trump administration has started to get its feet and start doing what they promised to do before the election, the SEC has been a very thorn in the side of crypto up until now. However, they've turned a new leaf, it would seem, and a lot of crypto enforcement actions, Wells notices, investigations have been dropped, which has been fantastic, leading into what Trump was going to have, which was the crypto summit, which we had last Friday, which was interesting in of itself. But the landscape is definitely changing, and there are some other parties that are waiting on the SEC to finally put to bed investigations and so forth and lawsuits. No more larger than potentially Ripple and XRP, which a few of our customers will be interested to find out where all that is at. Look, it is still ongoing. It's a lot more nuanced than just an investigation or a Wells notice. So, because it went further down the track than all these other litigations, it's going to be a little bit more complex to unwind. So, this is being led to believe with breaking news from someone that I've met, Ellie Terret, who was with CNN Fox News, with Fox News. She's put a scoop out the other day to say that her inside sources are saying that it's close to being finalised and resolved. So that could be a bit of a bump for XRP and Ripple in getting that all put to bed, but it would be the largest one that is still yet to be finalised. It's there's some really good commentary if people wish to follow on Twitter. Jeremy Hogan, another handle by the name of Metal Lawman. They're putting out very good commentary of what is how the process could unwind and how these two parties could agree and come together and not overturn the judge's decision, but walk it back a little bit, I suppose. So there's still a lot to play out, but everything's moving in the right direction, Tipper, which is good for the crypto industry.
And it's so interesting because a lot of the conversations I've been having recently, whether on Insights or in other forums, have been around this idea of uncertainty that we've seen recently. There's been, if talking outside of crypto for once, because it's almost the back to front, where we've had talk of tariffs and things that it's this on again, off again, stop start policy approach in different areas that have caused really quite a bit of chaos in the traditional
Yes.
markets. We've seen them
Yeah.
really bouncing all over the place on the back of just very turbulent uncertainty. Yet it seems like the crypto market has gone the other way here. Is that how you're seeing it? That we're now starting to really have some stability there, that we know, or we at least think we know what to expect going forward, because that's really important for the larger players in particular.
Yeah, look, the landscape is turbulent as you mentioned. The footing feels unsure at the moment, and whether that is a Trump tactic on a larger play on a global scale, it is affecting everyone. You are right. However, one can get a solid footing knowing that some of the largest players are still making moves in this industry and still pushing forward with ETF filings and family offices buying millions of dollars of Bitcoin, private companies starting to put balance sheets with Bitcoin. I just heard one the other day. I think it was, I can't remember. They put $17 million as part of their treasury into Bitcoin. So these surface wobbles or earthquake kind of tremors are keeping us a little unstable. And quite frankly, Trump does that as a bit of a tactic generally. But the landscape is still the same. We are still moving towards adoption. We are still moving towards a lot of positive things for Bitcoin in the larger market with regards to purchases, family offices, businesses, countries, states, and America's it's still doing good work in the back end, albeit it's been slow, but it seems to be accelerating in the right direction to get crypto into a pathway that is really going to excel forward.
So when you think about everything you've just said and the discussion that we're having, if you just listen to that part, you'd be going, this is fantastic. We must be at all-time highs because, yeah, like it's just such good news going on and that certainty. We've been waiting for all of that. Yet we obviously are not at all-time highs. We've had
No, we're
a
not.
significant pullback across the board, but particularly hitting alts, but hitting everything. It's not, Bitcoin's certainly not been immune there. And the fear and greed, this is the one that's really caught my
Yeah,
attention. We got a record low,
yeah,
like absolute extreme fear scenario playing out. How do you reconcile those two? Because on the one hand, you've got really you could not ask for more bullish news than the news that
yeah.
we've been getting, yet the price action has not followed suit.
Yeah, look, if you follow Ainslie on other videos, you'll start to know or realize that liquidity is picking up. The other signs, the Dixie's falling, bonds are starting to come down. There seems to be a large belief percentage-wise that interest rate cuts are going to happen in the near future. All this is pointing towards positive momentum for crypto. Yet, you're right, we've taken a big hit. Some have held up slightly better than others, but across the board, yes, we have taken a big hit. But when we look at it back, even to when the breakout before this Trump presidency began, we're still higher than we were then. In a lot of coins, you can talk Bitcoin still higher. It's up in the 80s. You're looking at XRP at $2.30 or thereabouts US. I'm sorry, I'm talking US terms there, but have a think. Have a look at the bigger picture. We were 40 or 50 cents for XRP US, and we're at $2 something. So, progress has been made. It might be a lot of new people or participants in the market. This is their first cycle, so to speak, and they're getting a lot of confusion and so forth, and thinking that price only go up, where it's a random walk. It's a random walk with an upward trend of adoption. So, look, we're still on the path. There are going to be hurdles along the way, but the path is still generally up and to the right.
And such a good point that you made around zoom out. People looking at it going, it's just absolutely tanked. We've lost all this value. Looking back a week, they're not looking back a year. And
Yeah,
that is really important here because if you were looking at any other asset class, you would still go, this is fantastic. We're still massively in profit from where we were 12 months ago. Yet, for some reason, when we look at crypto, we seem to be so narrowly focused on a very short time frame that it's held up to a different standard.
yeah. I mean, look, the XRP community is 400 to 500% better off than we were at the beginning of the year, and the sentiment at the beginning of the year would have been well past neutral. It would have been into like greed or something,
Yeah,
and yet we're at $2.30, and the fear and greed index went down to like what 15, like you said, or it's
yeah,
sitting at
it was a
19.
record
It
low.
doesn't make sense. It doesn't
Yes.
make sense. But zoom back, turn the charts off if you have to for a couple of weeks or something. But yes, the market is in good hands. We're okay. Things are turning in a positive light with a lot of metrics that Ainslie give to the customers. So there is always going to be a little bit of a ride that kind of goes up and down like a roller coaster, but the trend is still intact.
So, last question for today. A little bit of not holding you to this, a little bit of blue sky thinking. How do you think about the future here in terms of what's potentially going to unfold with this changing regulatory backdrop? Do you see, and as I said, this is just speculation, but do
Yeah.
you see that we're heading down a path where it is increasingly just accepted and, crypto everywhere? We don't even think about it because
Yeah.
we've passed that hurdle. Are there still significant hurdles ahead? What's your sort of speculative view of
Yeah.
where we go from here?
Well, I mean, Trump has said in the Friday meeting, which we were all hanging, tooth and nail, for what's going to happen, what's going to happen, and from that, there was some clarification there, which was, Bitcoin is a strategic reserve, but the important part was no cost to the taxpayer. Now, what we go with that is, okay, no cost. So they've already confiscated maybe 200,000 of them. Okay, that's no cost. They just redirect that to a wallet that the Treasury controls. But what about other things such as bonds, Bitcoin bonds, where they're raising funds to go buy? Or they put in mining, solar farms, and they have profitable Bitcoin mining that way and putting that on the balance sheet like other countries have done. It was. I think people expected a lot more out of that Friday meeting than they got, but there was still some really good nuggets in there saying, look, this is, I mean, can you imagine back in 2017, even a president mentioning, let alone Treasury or any of the others, mentioning crypto? We would have gone to all-time highs within a minute. It would have been crazy. We're just so desensitized to all this good news. So look, I see it playing out. I think there's going to be more clarification coming forward with regards to what the government intends to do, and then potentially game theory with what other governments are going to do. You're going to be looking at regulatory agencies being put in their lane and doing what they do best and not overreach into other areas. I think there's a lot of good work being done in the back end by a lot of if I say think tanks, it's not. There's a lot of lawyers in the back end from like your MITs and your Harvards and so forth who are putting together some really good stuff that the SEC could then grab and say, okay, this is where we went wrong. This is where we could do better, and this is how we could do better, and promote this as adoption and a more favourable environment for things to grow. I think the path has been set. The path isn't exactly clear, because I think they're still kind of working it out themselves. But the path is definitely set. So you just have to get on. You have to walk it. And it'll take a little while, but I think the destination will be worth it.
I completely agree with that. The destination's become clearer to me. The path has become less clear. That's a really good way to think about it. And just to pick up on one point that you said there about the game theory aspect of this, to me, I've used the term multiple times now that we're on the most bullish timeline, because when you think about if you were ever hopeful back when you talk about 2017 as the example, if you were ever hopeful for something to happen, it would be a country adopting. And then if you were ever hope would be that it would be the US in that case putting in place something that said that they were going to adopt it in any way, shape or form. The fact that that's happened opens the doorway to a lot more of that game theory, I think, where the race is on then because you don't want to be left behind, and we've seen hints of that already. But that I think people's expectations might have been it all happens in one day, but that's just not how these
No,
things work.
no, it doesn't. I mean, just a simple banking change can take 10 years. So there's a lot of things that need to be thought through, legislation put in place, agreement from both sides of the aisle. But going back to a point that you just made there, well, game theory, how does Australia sit in this situation? Is Australia going to start to make some? I mean, I don't know if we're hearing anything from the federal government saying, well, we got a plan of doing this. I think it's an opportunity for someone to step up there, coming into an election year, to say, well, this is what our plan is. Because if you don't have a plan, you're going to get left behind. And I think Australia needs to develop a plan. I think it needs to be forefront of, our security in the future.
I couldn't agree more on that. That we need a plan, and it's the right time to be talking about it. So, look, as always, love these conversations, Matt. We get to dig into what's going on, and you always know what's happening right across the industry. So, really appreciate your work always on that, and thanks for coming on today.
You're most welcome. Look forward to the next time. Thanks, Tipper.
Me too. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll chat again soon.